Hello guys, are you all doing well? Today we are going to discuss the Great Revolution of 1857. Here you can see the picture, the Revolt of 1857. So let's start our discussion, okay? Here our learning objectives is like this. First we discuss about the background and then the nature of the Great Revolt of 1857 and then the underlying causes of the revolt. After that, the immediate causes of the outbreak of revolt, the course of the revolt, and causes for the failure of the revolt and effect of the revolt. So let's start our discussion. First, we discuss about the East India Company. The British East India Company, which is also referred to as Joint Company, was a joint stock company. It received an English royal charter by Elizabeth I on December 31st, 16th century, favoring trade privileges in India. The royal charter effectively gave the newly created Honorable East India Company a 21st-year monopoly on all trade in India. Okay, in 1617, the company also received trade right by the Mughal emperor. By 1857, this army dominated India, wiping off even the last trace of independent Indian state. And the East India Company exported tons of gold, silk, cotton, and other precious metal back to England every year. But India did not accept alien rule passively. Unchecked colonial extraction of agricultural and forest wealth of Indian helped lead to rural poverty and the masses being reduced to a state of deprivation. The period between 1763 and 1856 saw highly uprising by peasant, tribal communities and princely state. India opposed colonization and confronted the British many times. Some were sustained, others sporadic, and a few were isolated acts of revolutionary resistance. India never stood united against the British. The native leaders were inept and corrupt and provided to be the place to apply divide and rule policy. The most significant landmark in India colonization was the British military victory at Plassey in 1757. This victory provided East India Company political sovereignty in India. Warren Hastings became the first British Governor General of India in 1773. It is not a single reason, but a wide load of issues that had led to unrest amongst the Indian masses. Political domination, attack on culture, hurting religious sentiment, deprivation, and large-scale violence brought Indians together to revolt against the colonial ruler. Okay. After that, the Great Revolution of 1857 started. The 1857 revolt sowed the seed of Indian nationalism, which lay dormant in the subconscious of the Indian people. It started the movement which was a continuous struggle against the British rule in 1947. Hence, the nature, character, and causes of this great revolution of 1857 should be studied in order to understand the subsequent event. Now, we try to understand the nature of the revolt of 1857. There are two types of nature. One is a military outbreak and another one is that the first war of Indian independence. The historical writing of the British scholar underplayed the character of the revolt of 1857. John Lawrence was of the opinion that the revolt was purely a military outbreak and not a conspiracy to overthrow British rule. On the other hand, the revolt of 1857 is held by the Indian scholar, especially by Bir Savarkar, as the first war of Indian independence, and second, as ancient belief that the 1857 revolt was the part of the struggle for Indian independence. Meanwhile, R.C. Muzumdar maintained that the outbreak before 1857, whether civil or military, were a series of isolated incidents ultimately culminated in the Great Revolt of 1857. Now there are many issues at the time. Okay, cause of the revolt. Now political issue, economic issue. Now first we try to understand about political causes, political issue. So the discontent and disaffection manifested in the form of revolt against the British government were not confined to the ruling chief and royal family alone. On the contrary, the British rule was disliked by the people at large any reason when it was newly introduced. Anti-British feelings were particularly strong in those regions like Burma, Assam, Kors, Sindh, like Punjab, which were unjustly annexed to the British Empire. The Doctor of Leaves, particularly its practical application by the Lord Dalhousie, produced grave discontent and disaffection among the native princes who were directly affected. On the other hand, economic causes, economic issue, the hung drain of wealth, the destruction of its industry, and increasing land revenue had become the common feature of the latter half of the 18th century. This is the main issue, okay? The East India Company, after attaining political power, used it to fund the growth of British trade and commerce at the cost of Indians. The British damaged the Indian trade and manufacture by imposing a high tariff in British against Indians' goods and by encouraging all means the import of British goods to India. In England, the ruin of the old handloom weavers was accompanied by the growth of the machine industry. But in India, the ruin of the million of artisans and craftsmen was not accompanied by any attractive growth of new industrial forms. This is the main issue. Further that, social issue and military issue. Okay, now we try to understand about social issue and military issue. First, the English showed an arrogant attitude toward the Indians. Indiscriminate assault on Indian by Englishmen because quite common. Also, a general awareness was raised among the Hindus and Muslims by the activities of the Christian missionary. The educational institute established by the missionary include Western education and culture in the place of original learning. The native population felt that were losing their social identity. Another side, discontent against the British Raj was widely prevalent among the Indian soldiers in the British Army. The Indian boy in the British Indian Army nursed a sense of strong resentment, their low salary and poor prospects of promotion. The British military officer at times showed least respect to social value and religious sentiment of Indians in the army. Thus, although generally faithful to their master, these boys were provoked to revolt. The Belur Munti of 1806 and precursor to the 1857 Great Revolt was the outcome of such tendency on the part of the military authorities. Another important cause of the spoil dissatisfaction was they abolished the foreign allowance or batta when they served in the foreign territories. Now, we try to understand the beginning of the revolt. What was the main reason on behind that? So let's start our discussion. The 1857 revolt was sparked off by the episode of Grease cartouche. The new infantry rifle had been introduced for the first time in the Indian Army. Its cartouche had a grease paper cover whose end had to be bitten off before the cartridge was loaded into the rifle. The grease was a compass of fat taken from the beef and pig. The religious feeling of the Hindus and Muslims boy were terribly wounded. This boy believed that the government was deliberately trying to destroy their religious and cultural identity. Hence, they raised the banner of revolt. After that, the event that led to the revolt began on 29 March 1857 at Barakpur. First, Mughal Pandey Espoy refused to use the grease cartouche and single-handedly attacked and killed his officer. Mughal Pandey was hanged. The regiment to which he belonged was disbanded and Espoy guilty of rebellion punished. Okay. After that, the British, instead of diffusing the explosives condition, paved the way for a mighty crisis. By the above act, a chain reaction was set in motion. At Meerut in May 1857, 85 spots of the 3rd Cavalry Regiment were sentenced to long term of imprisonment for refusing to use the grease cartouche. Therefore, on 10 May, the Espoy broke out in open rebellion, shoot their officer, released their fellow spoils and headed towards Delhi. General Howard, the officer commanding at Meerut, was helpless to prevent the army's march. Next morning, the rebellion's army reached Delhi. The city of Delhi fell into the hand of the rebellious soldier on 12 May 1857. Lieutenant, the officer in charge of Delhi, could not prevent the mutineers. Soon, the mutineers proclaimed the as nominal king, Bahadur Shah II of the Mughal dynasty, as the Emperor of India. Very soon, the rebellion spread throughout northern and central India at Lucknow, Allahabad, Kanpur, Banaras, in part of Bihar, Jhansi and other places. Now, we discuss about Delhi Sultanate. Bahadur Shah Zafar. The leadership at Delhi was nominally in the hand of Bahadur Shah, but the real control was exercised by General Bhag Khan. On the side of British, the combined effort of Nicholson, Wilson, Barrett Smith and Neville enabled the recapture Delhi by September 1857. In Delhi, Emperor Bahadur Shah II was arrested and deported to Rangoon, where he remained in exile till he died in 1862. Okay. After that, we try to know about Kanpur, Nana Sahib. Here we discussed about Nana Sahib. At Kanpur, the revolt was led by Nana Sahib, the adopted son of Baji Rao II, the last Peshwa. Nana Sahib expelled the English from Kanpur with the help of the Espoy and proclaimed himself the Peshwa. Nana Sahib, in his effort against the British, was ably supported by two of his lieutenants. One was Tatia Tope and another was Azimullah. Hugh Wheeler, the commander of the British garrison at Kanpur, surrendered on the 27 June 1857. But soon Kanpur was recaptured by the British commander Sir Colin Campbell. After that, the revolt were over Lucknow. The principal person responsible for the revolt in Lucknow was the Begum of Oudh. With the assistance of the Espoy, the Zamindars and peasant, the Begum organization all out attack on the British. Henry Lawrence, the chief commissioner, tried to defend the British. Lawrence was killed in a bomb blast during the fight. The final relief for the British force in Lucknow came in the form of Sir Colin Campbell, who suppressed the revolt. After that, if we go to the further, we can see the revolt where began Jhansi. Rani Lakshmi Bai of Jhansi, the window queen of Gadadhar Rao, play a heroic role in this revolt. Rani Lakshmi Bai was affected by Dalhousie doctrines of lefts, was joined by Tatya Tope. The combined effort of Rani and Tatya Tope saw the capture of Gwalior. Meanwhile, Sir Hagrose defeated Tatya Tope and stormed Jhansi on 3rd April 1858. He then captured Gwalior. The Rani of Jhansi died a soldier dead on 17 June 1858. Tatya Tope was captured and handed on charge of rebellion and murder in the Mesquite of Kanpur. Okay. After that, the revolt where began Bihar. Bihar. Okay. Kunwar Singh, a ruined and discontinued Zamindar of Jagdishpur near Auda, was the chief organizer of the revolt in Bihar. He fought the British in Bihar. Kunwar Singh sustained a fatal wound in the battle and died on 27 April 1815 at Jagdishpur. Ultimately, the 1857 revolt came to an end with the victory of the British. Viceroy Canning proclaimed peace throughout India. Okay. Now we try to understand about reason for failure of 1857 revolt. There are three main reasons: administrative reason, military reason, and ideological reason. Now, what are the administrative reasons? There was no planning among the rebels. It was an unorganized effort, and the leadership was weak. There was no direction to the movement. Now, military reason, there are three main reasons why 1857 revolt was failure. British Army was superior in organization. British Army had unlimited supplies. The rebels had limited supply and outdated ammunition. After that, there were ideological reasons. All sections did not participate like princely state and educated classes people. There was no alternative to feudalism put forth by rebels. This is the main reason for failure of 1857 revolt. Okay. So this is the last lecture of our discussion, and here we try to understand about the significance and effect of the mutiny. So the revolt of 1857 thought completely suppressed and shaken the very foundation of British rule in India, for the simple reason that the revolt exhibited the popular character. It brought together the disgruntled section of society to rise against the British rule. Another significant aspect of the 1857 revolt was Hindu-Muslim unity. It brought about fundamental change in the character of Indian administration. Lord Canning had unique opportunity to become the Governor General well as the first Viceroy according to Act of 1858. The revolt of 1857 ended an era and sowed the seed of new one. The year 1857 is the great divided between the two landmarks in Indian history. So thank you for watching. Have a great day.